A good horror game is something special. It is not able just to challenge us with its gameplay or tell a good story, but to scare us, to haunt our dreams and idle thoughts, even to make us question our own perceptions of reality. In this podcast, we meet the developers of both existing popular horror titles and hotly anticipated upcoming games to discuss how they do it, what inspires them, and all things spooky and unnerving. Welcome to Talking Terror, the official podcast of the Horror Game Awards.
Hello and welcome to Talking Terror, the official podcast of the Horror Game Awards. As ever, I'm your host, Phil, along with my co-host Will from the awards. And today we are joined by Ricardo Cesteiro from Camel 101, who's in the middle, probably I think right in the thick of the development for Beneath, your brand new horror game. As you were saying before the podcast started, a very, very busy time.
Hello, I'm very happy to be here. I wouldn't. We are very deep in the development right now. I wouldn't say that we are in the half of the project. We are nearing the last stages of the project. Most of the content is done. All the levels are done. It was a very extensive process. So we are getting to that stage where we are starting to polish everything, to start the play tests. It's very exciting.
Yeah, very exciting, interesting times ahead. So as this goes live, like we're recording this at the start of October, but if my calculations are right, this should be going live, going out a week before Halloween. So obviously in the thick of spooky season. So perfect time to talk about horror and all things like that. So before we kind of go into the game specifically, kind of what's your like take as far as like what brought you into horror as a fan of the, like, is this something you watch movies as well and read horror books, or is it just games specifically?
Well, if you look at my background,
Very nice.
You can see that. I'm a huge horror fan. In all media, from movies to books to games to live experiences. From a very young age, I've been very enthusiastic about horror. So it was very natural to start experimenting with doing horror games. So it's something that I really enjoyed to make and to play and to consume in general, everything horror related.
Yeah, I'm just looking at what's behind you on the wall in terms of like Freddy's claws and Jason's mask. Is it more slasher horror? Is that kind of your favorite type of part of the genre?
Kind of. Looking at horror movies. I love horror, but nowadays it's very rare to find a movie that actually surprises me.
Yeah, true.
I feel that I've seen everything, but sometimes a gem comes up that completely changes the rules. But answering your question, I'm more into the psychological horror, the kind of movie where you don't know who is the villain, who is the monster, what's going on. Although the slashers are always fun, right?
Yeah, I know, most definitely. So we know what horror films and stuff that you like, but what do you believe makes good horror?
A good horror. I think very important is not knowing exactly who or what is the monster or the villain. That basic premise of uh, keep it hidden, keep it mysterious. Like, for example, if we look at the Alien movie, in the first movie, it was very mysterious. It was like a creature that moved in the shadows, and we didn't know anything about it. In the second movie, it's still scary, but yeah, now we see that they come out of the eggs and you can just shoot them. It's not so mysterious. It's scary because the Marines are fighting against a huge amount of aliens, but it's not that scary anymore. Again, if you don't know the rules of the monster, how he acts, how he moves, the more the mystery, the more the horror. If you explain what the monster is, the origins, etc., it starts to lose the scare factor.
Exactly. If you can predict their next move, then it sort of just takes everything out, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean that was why my favorites like version, like the Godzilla movies, was where you only saw little bits of him until the very end. It was never like just straight away show the full monster. It's always there's something else there, like ooh, what
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
anticipation. Um, so I mean, obviously you've got into like horror games specifically, and Beneath is your latest project. So for those who might not be aware of this yet, and obviously it's coming towards the end of next year, do you want to kind of tell people what to expect, what it's about in
Yeah,
obviously
yeah.
general terms?
Yeah, so Beneath is an action horror slash survival horror game, played in first person. Um, it's a game that the action takes place inside a complex of underwater stations. So there are parts of the gameplay inside the stations and some others outside, using a deep atmospheric suit, so the player can also go out into the ocean. Um, the story is a bit inspired by the Call of Cthulhu. So, without spoiling the story, there's also a cosmic horror element here. The main character is also suffering from anxiety attacks, panic attacks, sanity checks. So the player is going to have to face human soldiers, monsters, and he'll have to keep the sanity in check. This game is basically the result of our experiences from our previous two games, which were Syndrome and Those Who Remain. Here we are combining the action of one game with the psychological element of the other.
I know that is no, it must be quite fun to develop with and obviously follow on. Is it any way related to the previous games, or is it a completely new story?
Um, well, all our games share the same universe,
Okay.
so usually we insert some kind of Easter egg or snippet that that the more attentive players can see. For example, this game, there is a part of the story that there's a reference there to the events that happened in the previous game. Although the story is not related, the setting is the same.
Yeah, and you've got that kind of deep sea setting. And obviously, you mentioned going out underwater. That's kind of I always find like cosmic horror, particularly Cthulhu stuff, has got a very sea, like deep sea kind of ethos like to it anyway. So is that going to be played on like in the sections where you're in the like suit, and is that kind of where all the worst horrors lurk once you're out in the waters, or is that something you're going to surprise us with?
Well, the horror elements are always present. The main thing when you are walking outside with the suit is that you don't have access to any weapons, so you are way more vulnerable. But the monsters and the weirdness that's always present in the game.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I asked that is because I always find like those deep sea, open water type things to be, like in films and stuff, a lot more eerie than when you're on land, because it's on land. There's a relative like familiarity, isn't there? You know what you're doing, whereas in the deep sea,
And because the bottom of the sea is dark, it's very dark, it's very mysterious, it's oppressive. The oxygen is limited, so just being there is scary.
Exactly. I think it's also it's the sound as well, isn't it? Similar to the space setting, like all you can really hear is yourself within that space. So that must be like you can't typically hear what's coming towards you. You see it before, and obviously being very deep, your vision's very obscured. So if you see something, it's going to be right next to you.
And even with the suit and the helmet, it blocks the vision, right? So it's very claustrophobic, and I think it's a very scary setting. It's interesting because before we started the game, we were still throwing a few ideas around, and we were discussing if we should do a space game, and we were like, yeah, space games. There are a lot of space games. Let's try to find something different. And we thought, what about the deep sea? It's a very interesting setting. It's different, and it's also very oppressive and scary. So that's why we came up with this idea.
No, definitely. I'll definitely. My one big inane fear of anything is deep water, so this will definitely be ideal and a good scare for sure.
So how does the kind of, because obviously we played when we were at WAS, we played a bit of a demo there, and it was mostly a shooting section. You go around with the guns and facing various enemies. How does the kind of sanity meter feed into that? Is that something, does that in separate sections, or is that something you have to be keeping an eye on whilst you're shooting and whilst you're dealing with enemies as well?
So the sanity check, the sanity levels decrease when the player looks at the specific enemies, at specific objects, when he is in the presence of evil things. So it's possible that the sanity goes down while the player is in combat. If that happens, the vision starts to get blurry. The weapon shakes. It's way more difficult to aim and shoot. And there are also other events that can be triggered while the sanity is low, like spawning monsters. So yeah, it's something that can happen very dynamically.
Yeah, so that thing, like, you know, if you look at Cthulhu or the Great Old Ones, you like instantly lose your mind and it unravels, that type of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Be interesting to see how that's happening while you're trying to like aim for pinpoint accuracy.
Exactly.
Well, it's going to be tough. Yeah.
And is this kind of where, because I was going to ask anyway about like kind of what your view on the best way, because you've got action in there, you've also got survival horror style resource management in there, and where you see the balance between those things is like you like lean towards one more than the other, or trying to like give them both a fair airing.
Well, there's a very fine balance between action and the survival horror. It's not just the setting and the graphics. We don't want to actually we want to give the player means to fight back and um, to be able to fight the enemies, but we don't want to give the player too much firepower or too much ammo, so that um, it's going to be difficult to fight against everyone. We want to make it so that the player can sometimes evade the enemies, uh, take a more stealthy approach to conserve his ammunition. I think this adds a lot to the survival horror thing, and adding to this, there are going to be some enemies that are very tough or even invulnerable. So action is not an option. So fighting against the soldiers, it's approachable, but fighting against other creatures might be not advisable.
Better to run away.
Yeah, or hide.
Yeah. So you've mentioned quite a few different gameplay mechanics that will be in Beneath. Is there any inspirations that you've taken from different games?
Yeah, I would say that the two main inspirations are Resident Evil and Fear. Fear, we studied the mechanics of the enemy soldiers, the behaviors, how they act as a squad, and we tried to bring it here.
Yeah.
So that we want the combat with the soldiers and with the monsters to be very different. The monsters just try to chase the player and kill him. The soldiers, we have a set of different behaviors, more aggressive, more defensive. Some will try to use more cover, others don't. So that part was inspired by Fear. Resident Evil was the inspiration for the way the game is played, like the how you meet the characters and the narrative unfolds, and you get to a place and then you have to find the key, and you need to solve a puzzle with lights or something. So yeah, these were the two main inspirations of video games.
Yeah, you never really hear much about Fear. It's such an underrated horror
It is.
franchise.
It's a shame. It's a shame.
Yeah, no, because it doesn't that one have sanity and hallucinations as well? I remember the little girl.
Yeah, it does have hallucinations, but I think it's mostly scripted.
Okay.
From what I remember, I think so. Yeah,
Mm.
but it works and it's very effective.
Yeah.
There are a few memorable scenes there that still nowadays everyone remembers it.
Okay. No, that's cool. So obviously, we talk about obviously with sound design is a big key part of horror and quite an iconic aspect of every piece of horror media. How have you dealt with the sound design of the game? Have you done it yourself, or have you brought on a team for that?
We have two experts that are doing the sound design. Usually how it works is that I place a placeholder sounds just to see how everything looks, and how and where we need to have sounds, and then we tell them, okay, we need something like this. because a horror game is very specific. We can't have music that has too much action, but we need to have some kind of a melodic background. So we need to try and see what works best. But sound is something that we pay a lot of attention to, because it's very important here. We don't have a lot of music, only in specific small sections. But but again, it needs to feel something that something is going on the background,
Oh, exactly, and then that works in with the insanity as well, doesn't it? With the where you're thinking in your head, you think you're hearing sounds, but that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I remember from playing it, like there's quite a, because obviously it's set underwater as well. You've got that like lots to play with in terms of like that sort of the echoes and the drips and all these little things which are a lot creepier than like, obviously you can't really have wind or anything like that.
Yeah, we can't have wind, but we can have the metal creaks and
the pressure change.
Yeah, the pressure change. Yeah. It's very creepy as well.
So you were saying about the music. Is it like you're keeping that to a minimum, or?
Yeah. We in this kind of game we like to keep the music to a minimum. Only in specific parts, like a small trigger or something, or on a small cutscene where we show a submarine or something. Other than that, we don't like to interfere with the gameplay, with what the player is feeling and watching. We feel that if the music starts to interfere with the action, it helps break the immersion. So the music and the sound must be there as a support for what the player is actually doing in the game.
Yeah, and you've got that whole element when there's no music or less music. It's kind of lonelier as well.
Yeah,
that isolation feeling.
Yeah. I think people get used to in games where obviously when you start hearing music and stuff, obviously enemies are nearby. So obviously if the enemies and stuff are moving silently and you're in that space and you don't hear a single thing, then obviously that'll be a lot more eerie and horrific.
Yeah, that's actually a discussion that we had. If we want to surprise the player with a monster that's just say around the corner or something, we can have an action music, right? Or it alerts the player. Although the action music sounds good, but it's a choice that we have to make. Either we have an action music that makes it a bit more action oriented, or we have a creature that attacks the player by surprise. It's a choice that needs to be made.
Yeah,
absolutely. So what's been the biggest challenge, would you say, in making this game?
The biggest challenge, well, one was maybe the scale. It's our biggest game, and it's a bit bigger than we actually envisioned in the start. So creating all the content was a challenge, and the other challenge was, and still is, the balance of everything, because we don't want the game to feel too much action oriented, and it needs to be played and tested until we feel that it's on the sweet spot. But it's been incredibly challenging because yeah, like I said, it's our biggest project yet, and it's been a lot of fun to make it.
Yeah. And then to flip that question, what's been the most fun you've had so far? Or what have you enjoyed the most with the development?
I always have a lot of fun writing the story and the characters, and writing all the journals and all the clues that you can find. And since this game is the first time that we've given ourselves the freedom of interaction with uh, the other characters, and have a lot more dialogues, etc. It's been a lot of fun to write all of that. I'm not a professional writer, but I like to write. So that part has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, just piecing together all the like lore and background and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And writing all the backstories of the characters, trying to imagine what each character would do in a specific situation. What would he say, he or she? Yeah, it's a very fun part of development.
No, I can imagine. Has it been? Did you write it all and then started development, or has it been like a continuous process where you've come across things and you've changed it?
So we start with a basic script, and then it starts to grow as the development starts. Some things change, some things are added, some others completely go out. So I like to say that a project is never finished the way it started. There are always changes, but yeah, it started with a smaller script. We had the idea of the characters, of the narrative of the story, and then we expanded it as we started the actual development.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and have you got any kind of things there which you had to cut out or change, which were you really kind of liked at the beginning, but you were like, oh, that's cool, but it doesn't work, unfortunately?
Yeah. For example, in here the player, there are 6 underwater stations, and when the player moves from one to another, he uses a submarine. But you enter the submarine, and it's all automatic. We had the idea of actually moving the submarine with the controls, but then we started to analyze. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of work. It's just too much, and we had a few other extra sections in the game that were going to be a lot of work, and they weren't adding that much to the overall experience. So we decided to take them out.
Yeah, it's a shame, but it's obviously necessary for the greater good of the game, I suppose.
Yeah, and on the flip side, there were a few things that weren't on the original plan, and that we added later. So yeah, it happens. And some things go out, some others come in.
Yeah. Would you support the game with DLC? Do you know if there was like a different part of the story that you'd want to add on later on, or would you wait for that? If you had a sequel, would you wait for that?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because the way the story is told, and the way the different sections are placed in the game, it's very possible for us to make an expansion or a DLC, telling the story from the perspective of a different character. Again, this is inspired by Resident Evil. They do this a lot, right? So it's something that we could do, and it would be a lot of fun too.
That's cool.
Yeah. So obviously you've got a back catalogue of games before this, which are all kind of, as you said, interconnected in with those Easter eggs and stuff. So is this something you've seen your like the community and your fans like excited for the new game, and like what's the support been like?
Yeah, it's been it's been interesting. We've built I think a lot of interest over the last years. We sometimes we get very cool emails from fans that really enjoy the games, especially those who remain. And most of them always say, "I'm very excited to see what you guys are going to do next." So yeah, it's very exciting for us to know that there are players out there that are actually waiting for the game to come out. Yeah, it feels very rewarding.
No, I can imagine. And obviously, we managed to get our hands on the game at WASD. Has there been any other shows that you've taken to Beneath to recently?
That was the first. We are going to be in IndieX in Portugal next month. And yeah, these have been the first two, and we hope to show it in a lot more places from now on. We finally feel that we have a demo that's good to be shown to the public and played.
Yeah. Because how was the feedback at WASD? Did you get any? Obviously, with different people playing it, how did it go?
It was very good. There are two different kinds of feedback: the spoken feedback and the feedback from just watching the player play. And when we see that the players are trying to finish the demo and they die and they try again and they retry and they retry, that's a very good sign. That's a very good sign. Yeah, and everyone was just trying to get to the end of the demo. They were really into the game, so it was awesome. It was really good. We can't wait to bring the game to more shows.
No, I bet.
Yeah. Are you going to? Have you got plans for a demo that's accessible on like Steam or that as far as part of your future plans as well, or is it just going to be for now showing it when you can go around physical shows?
We've never done any demos with our previous games, but we are seriously considering releasing a demo on Steam, but probably next year when we have. We want to make a demo that shows all the gameplay mechanics of the game, like a vertical slice, even if it's a small and compact demo. We don't want to just to make a demo that gives the wrong idea of what the game is about. So we want to be sure that we have the perfect demo,
Yeah, because I suppose if you release a demo that's just the shooting parts, and then when people find out it's not an FPS, it's got that survival horror element. But you don't want to kind of cultivate that and just say, no, there's more to it.
Exactly, and we don't want to release a demo just showing the the start of the game where you don't even have a weapon, or the player can just assume, yeah, it's just a walking simulator. So it needs to be very much well planned,
Yeah, absolutely. Very much looking forward to seeing kind of what comes next from it. Have you had a chance to play much in terms of the stuff that's come out this year from other developers and other horror games?
Not really. Not really. I've been so busy. Of course I watch the videos of what's coming out, but I haven't had the chance to play a lot.
No. Has there been anything that's caught your eye that you've seen so far this year?
Well, I want to play Resident Evil 4, Dead Space. Callisto Protocol was this year, right?
It's December last year. Very close.
December.
Very close, yeah.
Yeah, I want to try these three.
Well, very good three choices. So,
and 2 set in space.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I still remember when we saw the announcements of Dead Space and the Callisto Protocol. We were very glad that we
Oh, no, definitely.
Yeah, that we didn't go with the space setting.
Well, yeah, 'cause who did we speak to last week? And they were thinking the same, but wasn't it like 14 space horror games were in development? So it's like,
Well,
yeah,
well,
Abstract Digital, who did
yes.
Tormented Souls, and they've got a new one which is also set in space, although it's fixed camera, kind of old school survival horror style.
Okay. Sounds cool.
So yeah, I think they initially had it looking like more over the shoulder third person to kind of, and then they were like, oh no, all these games are coming out that look exactly like that.
Oh god.
But I suppose that's the trend. Maybe those are probably the two loneliest, like most unknown settings is space and the deep sea. So whether we'll see more people choose the deep sea setting in future as well, I don't know. Like,
well, probably. I remember the first game that really got me into the sea was probably Soma. It's debatable if it's a horror game or not, but it's creepy and it's scary, and I love the game. I love the story, the ending. I think it's an amazing game, and they explored the setting, the underwater setting in a marvelous way.
Oh no, definitely. No, it was a very iconic game.
Yeah.
Same as BioShock.
Yeah. But yeah, the bottom of the sea is a great setting for both games and movies. It's very mysterious. Large part of the ocean is still unexplored, so we have no idea what's down there.
I don't think I want to know.
Yeah. Same.
Just leave it there. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it's in the dark. We can't see it. It's all good.
No, exactly.
Yeah. Just let it be.
Yeah.
Cool. I was trying to think. There was another game. It wasn't in the same style. It was like a 2D side scroller, like where you play as a diver, but it was also set in the deep sea. Like it had that very. But I can't remember the name of the thing now. Saw it last year. That's gonna bug me for a while. I think. Trying to remember what that's called.
Well, and there was also an old game. I don't remember what was the console. There was Cold Fear, and there was Deep Fear.
PS2. It was like sort of. Is it sort of very similar to Resident Evil 4? in the play, how it played, like with the.
Yeah, that was Cold Fear, and before Cold Fear there was Deep Fear.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And yeah, it was on one of the oldest consoles. I don't remember which, but the action was also in a station underwater. I don't remember. It's a very old game, but it was kind of the same environment. I think it was on a Sega Saturn or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never had the Sega Saturn, so I couldn't say which.
Yeah, I never played the game. I only read about it.
So obviously your main focus at the moment is with finishing Beneath and kind of bringing that to the world. But have you got any other kind of future plans as far as what's coming next, or is that all still wrapped in secrecy at the moment?
Well, it's wrapped in secrecy, but I can say that we are already kind of starting the pre-production of our next game, which is also going to be horror themed. This is something that we really like and that we really enjoy, and we want to try to explore different kinds of fear, placing the player in different kinds of settings and situations. So yeah, it's still very early, of course, but we are already writing some stuff and thinking about our next project.
I wonder if there'll be any Easter eggs in Beneath for that.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. We'll keep on the hunt then.
Yeah, if you can guess what the next game is, win a prize. No, we will definitely be keeping our eyes open for what comes next. Then, I'd be very interested. So before we kind of wrap things up, then the main thing that you like for people who want to support Beneath and look forward to it, the main thing you're asking, I presume, is to wishlist on Steam.
Yeah, that's lovely. If everyone can just wishlist the game, that's the biggest help that we can get.
Yeah, is it coming out on across the console platforms as well, or is it just going to be a Steam release?
Yeah. It's coming to it's coming out on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series.
Okay.
Cool. In which case, because we did mention this, I think the last interview we did, you can wishlist on PlayStation as well, so we should encourage people to do that.
Right. Although we don't have a store page yet on
on
PlayStation, so
we'll share it once it's out.
Steam is fine.
Yeah, and for anyone watching, you can check out the links in the description of the video. We'll have that where you can check out more info about Beneath and obviously wishlist it to support the developers. So, I mean, thank you very much, Ricardo. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you and learning more about your game. And thank you to everyone for watching. And we will be back with more of this next time. So, see you later.
Yeah, see you later.
This has been Talking Terror, the official podcast of the Horror Game Awards. Thank you very much for listening. Check out the links in the description for more info on where to follow our guests in order to support them and keep up to date with their work. The Horror Game Awards will be airing live on YouTube on Saturday the 16th of December. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel to avoid missing out on what promises to be a very exciting night of awards and game reveals, as well as future episodes of this podcast and other content. Thanks again for joining us, and we hope to see you next time.